Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 1002 days, less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yesterday, Russia attacked the city of Dnipro with a new missile, reports Ukrainska Pravda. The Ukrainian Air Force informed that the Russians used an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time in war conditions. It was noted that this might have been a Rubezh intercontinental ballistic missile, a potential carrier of nuclear warheads. Later in the evening, Russian leader Vladimir Putin recorded a video message saying that the Russian forces used an Oreshnik medium-range missile during the morning attack on Dnipro. He said that this was a test launch of the quote-unquote state-of-the-art missile. Putin claims that Russia used a non-nuclear hypersonic ballistic missile to strike the defense industry facility in Dnipro, and there are currently no means to counter Oreshnik missiles. Quote, these missiles attacked the target at Mach 10, which is 2.5 to 3 kilometers per second. The modern air defense systems available globally and the missile defense systems being delivered by the Americans to Europe cannot intercept such missiles, unquote. He promised to warn Ukrainian civilians about the use of these missiles so that they could leave the danger zones. Putin said Russia had conducted the test in response to the Ukrainian armed forces attacks on targets in Bryansk and Kursk Oblast on 19th and 21st of November using American ATACMS and Franco-British Storm Shadow missiles. According to Putin, the Ukrainian attack on a command post in Kursk Oblast resulted in deaths and casualties, but no one was injured in the attack in Bryansk Oblast. The Russian leader stated that following Ukraine's use of Western-supplied long-range weapons to strike Russian territory, the conflict has acquired quote-unquote elements of a global nature. President Volodymyr Zelensky reacted to Putin's announcement about the use of an Oreshnik missile against Ukraine, reports Liga. Quote, today, Putin has admitted taking the second step this year towards escalating and expanding this war. A new ballistic missile was used. Putin struck our city of Dnipro, one of the largest cities in Ukraine. This is a clear and severe escalation in the scale and brutality of this war, a cynical violation of the UN Charter by Russia, unquote. The president stressed that the first step towards escalation this year was involving North Korea in the war against Ukraine with a contingent of at least 11,000 soldiers. The Ukrainian leader said that Putin has taken both of these steps while ignoring global calls to avoid escalation. Quote, he disregards calls from China, Brazil, European countries, the US, and other countries, unquote, Zelensky stated. The president also recalled that Ukraine has used long-range weapons before, which is not a new development. Zelensky stressed that Kyiv has every right to do so under international law, as it is self-defense. He called the world to react to this development. Quote, the world must respond. Right now there is no strong reaction from the world. Putin is very sensitive to such reactions. He is testing you, dear partners. It is clear to everyone who the sole culprit of this war is, who started it on 24th of February. And who continues to pour all resources into its continuation. He must be stopped, unquote, said the head of state. He added that the lack of tough reactions to Russia's actions sends a message that such behavior is acceptable. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, and leave a glowing review in the app where you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. According to Reuters, citing a US official, Russia notified the US shortly before the launch of a medium-range ballistic missile designated by Russian leader Vladimir Putin as Oreshnik. The official added that in recent days, the US had informed Ukraine and other close allies that Moscow might launch this missile. The US believes this experimental missile is unlikely to significantly alter the situation in the war in Ukraine and that Russia likely possesses only a limited number of such missiles. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov claimed that the warning was sent automatically 30 minutes before the launch. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that this attack won't interrupt delivery of new arms packages to Ukraine. She also emphasized that the US sees no indications of Russia preparing to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Earlier, CNN reported that the US drew a line between the intercontinental ballistic missile and medium-range ballistic missile that was used by Russia. A scheduled session of the Verkhovna Rada Ukrainian parliament for 22nd of November has been cancelled, reports Suspilne. Members of parliament were warned of a potential Russian strike targeting the government quarter. They were urged to limit their presence there as well as that of their families. The session was supposed to include a question hour with the government. The next session is planned for December. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, a non-commercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.